stiff arms of crap out of Draco's match right there.
Going down again. It's Q. Red Williams.
Fighting through contact, fighting through offensive line, being a double team, multiple moves stacked into one, just a play of pure domination. This is actual film, this is actual football talk. It's a football show, we're supposed to talk football, not storylines.
Hey, all of you cool cats and kittens. You are listening to the 5th edition of Blewett's Blitz. If you don't get the reference to all the cool cats and kittens, that is not my problem. That is 100% your problem, so figure it out. 5th edition, 21 plays, I think, of Mekhi Becton, so it's going to be relatively short. Just released Andrew Thomas 2 days ago, and then Brashad Perryman about 4 days ago. So we have a ton of stuff coming your way, as well as Tristan Wirfs coming in two days. So look out for that. So like I said, every other 2-3 days, we're going to have shows. We're going to keep pumping them out. After Wirfs, we're going to have Jedrick Wills. I just posted Wirfs on the website, and I just did the whole article for Jets X Factor. And then after that, like I said, we're going to do Wills on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at JoeRB31. Follow the rest of the guys. I said it before. Michael Nania at Michael_Nania. Jets X Factor is another Twitter with no spaces. And then Robbie Savo, JetsXFactor.com. $6 a month, $60 a year for, I think, the best Jets content out there in terms of actually learning stuff. There might be some things that are out there that are maybe more pleasing in terms of listening to, depending on what you like to listen to. More hot topic type WFAN, ESPN stuff. That's fine if you like to listen to that. But in terms of like actually learning about the team, I think this is the best website for you. YouTube, Blewett's Blitz, podcast. Drop the reviews. Like I said, once we get to 50, give away a free lifetime subscription, and also just helps too. Even if you want to do it for the subscription, it definitely helps me get out to more people, which helps the website, which then turns into better equipment, better, a lot of things. So I would definitely appreciate if you guys did that. Draft is coming soon. I think the draft is in like 20 days. I don't know what today is, the 4th or something. It's in 20 days. It's all going to be virtual. It's going to be interesting to see how they exactly do that, but we'll see. I'm excited for it, but because it's so soon, we have to get into all of these things really, really quickly. So get into Mekhi Becton. We'll do it quickly. Like I said, it'll be about an hour. Left tackle, Louisville, 6'7", 364. I've seen him between 364 and like 375, right in that weight range, which is obviously just absolutely massive. 35 and 5/8 inch arms is plenty long. I think my arm length that I look for in offensive tackle is usually 34 plus inch arms. And that's considered good. If it's like 33, 32, it's usually not the best for a offensive lineman. If that's like a corner, okay, that's fine. But anything over 34 is good. But 35 and 5/8 inch arms is good. Not as good as Andrew Thomas in terms of arm length, but he still is fine. Huge wingspan too. So his wingspan is big. Strong as hell. These are the strengths. Sorry if I'm not, if I didn't say that, but I just always go over the strengths and weaknesses. First, strong as hell, ridiculous athleticism for size. He moves like anybody his size really shouldn't. Works his feet in the run game. He has and had plenty of room to rely on pure strength without technique, which he has to work on a little bit. Balance in pass sets, smooth in pass sets. Covers ground on first step of slide of his pass set. Clean feet. Strong punch, moves well in space. He's not a waist bender, which is good, especially at his size, because he really put him off balance. He doesn't give the rusher his chest because of his length. NFL, he might give it up a little bit more, but in college he did not. Tough, good anchor, technique flashes at times. So he doesn't have you're going to see me with Wirfs or even Wills or maybe even Thomas. I had a little bit more of a list of strengths. He's a lot more of a physical specimen at this point, with a lot of work, technical or technique wise, to make him a really, really good player going to the NFL. If he improves on those things, he's the guy with the lowest floor to me. As I said, he is my OT4, but he's my OT3 for the Jets because I feel like Andrew Thomas doesn't fit in the scheme that the Jets do necessarily in terms of zone blocking, mid zone, outside zone, wider splits for pass sets, things like that. 11 personnel, 10 personnel. You want Andrew Thomas in heavier sets and power and counter and gap and wedge type blocking, ISO, like things like that. So I don't think he fits as well for the Jets. But like I said, Becton OT3 for the Jets, OT4 overall for me. And I think he is, let's see where he's number 6 on my board. So I told you guys that we had Thomas at 5. We have Becton now at 6. I'm doing worse on Monday, so I'll reveal my ranking then. But in terms of his weaknesses, we have opens early in pass sets, off balance when he throws his punch at times, inconsistent at picking up stunts, hands shoot high, patience is lacking. Oversets, doesn't take full advantage of length, inaccurate punches, pop blocks, and run game. Can come in and out of control on second level, or can come in. I wrote that down wrong. He can come into the second level out of control. I don't know why I worded it like I did. Needs to clean up cut blocks, awareness, loads up into punches, doesn't work to cover gaps, needs to play more square overall, can be top heavy in run game, feet cross. And there's a difference between being top heavy and then leaning into, like if you're playing top heavy, you don't have a good base. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're leaning. So I think he plays top heavy in the run game. Too often, it's not every snap, obviously. Feet crossing and big steps in run game hurt him. And I also put in here, not listed very well in my notes, has to work hips, feet to get more under blocks, see some big steps in a lot of areas, will hop, leave feet for blocks. Not many true pass sets at Louisville. Louisville's a lot of play action, a lot of jump sets, a lot of 45-degree sets. We didn't see a lot of true, 5-7 step drops for the quarterback, so he didn't have to block for that long. And if he did, it wasn't a lot of vertical sets, so you have to worry about him taking vertical sets in the NFL. So it's definitely one of my worries, because he hasn't done it a whole ton, so he's gonna need a lot of work in that area. So let me pull up some of his plays. Let's see. Do I have 21, 22 plays? Okay, yeah. So that's been pretty simple. I'm not going to go and look at what I posted already. We're just going to go through it all. The first thing I'm already noticing is even just on this play, his hips are really high. Even though he is tall, to see his hips get down a little bit. And they, like I said, I don't know if I said this with Worth or if I said this with Thomas, a lot of these guys are like running that outside foot in place to read guys and to, I guess, not cover a lot of ground and to, keep their distance proper between themselves and the guard. I see this a lot more in college than I do in the pros. Something that really stuck out to me is you see like a lot of that drop step off of the snap. So he takes like I said, left tackle every single snap. And honestly, a lot of his film it's a lot of the plays are pretty similar. So I think this is going to be pretty quick one. Maybe if the Jets draft him, I'll try to go back and look for more games, but I can only look at what's available on the internet. So maybe once they draft him, I can go back and look up Louisville's games and then actually record off of like a better broadcast angle or whatever it may be, instead of like play cut ups. So it takes that drop step. This is just the power. He has a ridiculous amount of power. And when you have a guy who's 370 pounds and he's going against an outside linebacker who I would probably guess outside linebacker, or whether he be a stand-up linebacker and he's pressing the edge, whatever you want to call him, I would probably say he's 230, 235 pounds, maybe even a little bit lighter than that. So he has 140 pounds on him. So he tosses guys in the run game quite frequently. And I don't think his technique is bad here. Overall, I can't really see his feet. His feet, when he comes up to him, might be a little bit narrow. Like I said, with the broadcast angle, it's definitely a lot harder for me to read techniques. Not read the techniques, but see their footwork. You need the end zone view for a lot of offensive line stuff. But he looks like he might be a little bit too narrow in his base, but it doesn't really matter for him. In college, like I said, in the NFL, when the guys are better, they know how to attack your leverage. They know how to sink their hips. They know how to push pull you, whatever it may be. It might not be as effective. So he goes back to this technique a lot where he just gets his hands on guys. He gets his right hand under the armpit, which is a fine area. You're especially in the inside hand. If you're trying to torque him outside, you really want to get into that rib cage, that armpit, maybe even onto the hip area. That's probably the best 3, I would say. And he just uses that circular force and just absolutely tosses the guy, and then he buries him. Yeah, I'll show you. Played again at full speed. So like I said, his strength is just, it's ridiculous. He's the most interested. He's a really interesting offensive line prospect. Like Andrew Thomas, I'll be happy with because I know they're addressing the offensive line. But I'll be like, I know he's not going to be the best fit. I really just know it. So I would be like, it's a good pick, but it's kind of like not even a lukewarm pick. I'll be happier than lukewarm, but I just don't think he'll reach his full potential with the Jets, to be completely honest. So at that point, they might trade down and take like a Josh Jones or Jackson or whoever else, whatever tackle that Joe Douglas likes. But Mekhi Becton, he might be a little bit riskier, like I said, with the lowest. I'm going to say the lowest floor in the class, but the highest ceiling. If he puts his technique together, the way he moves and the strength he has for his size is he could be an all-pro. But that's with a lot of technique work. That doesn't just come because you have the size. So really good rotational force right here. Torque, power from the hips, power from the upper body, and just tosses the guy. And I like how he finishes the block. He doesn't let him get up and get back to the outside and potentially make a play on the running back. Just drops his full body weight into him. And that makes guys think twice about going against Mekhi Becton. Honestly, if he's going to do that to guys, frequently they're going to get concerned, to be honest, about him just absolutely destroying him laying his body weight on top of him. So let's see, technique May. So yeah, okay. So this looks like he was a little bit top heavy here. So this actually is a vertical set. Like I said, he doesn't get into him a lot. The thing I don't like here is how I'm fine with his angle of his vertical set, especially since you have the running back filling inside. So he might be a little bit too far to the outside, but if the running back coming through, so if he was to knife in the inside, the running back will most likely chip him. So it gives Mekhi Becton some flexibility in terms of staying a little bit too far to the outside. The thing I do not like about this is as he goes to punch, his feet freeze. I don't want to see the feet freezing. Keep gaining that depth, keep getting to the outside a little bit. But when you freeze and you're shooting two hands, his hips are completely locked now. So his hips are locked. And like I said, in college against Clemson, who's a big school, good school, but these outside linebackers aren't, guys who the Jets will face, this year. Name whatever team you want to, with some of the people the Jets would be facing. So don't want to see that, because guys will chop those arms down and then you're shooting into nothing and your hips are locked and they'll bend that corner really, really tight. You're giving them a softer edge, as they say, if they defeat those arms. And then I don't like this, how after the guy, continues up the arc, I would like to see him know his quarterback set point now. So he knows his quarterback is taking a 1, 2, 3 step drop. I don't like the quarterback's drop at all. His feet are crossing and his heels are clicking, but that's a story for a different day. So he should know that the quarterback where he's going to be. So he should not want to allow, or he definitely doesn't want to allow the defensive end, edge, outside linebacker, stand-up end, whatever you want to call him, work straight to the quarterback. So he should know at this point, even though his hips are locked a little bit right here, this is why he has to he hops back. You see, he hops back and really leans. At this point, just root your feet down and continue to shuffle. But he hops for the contact right there. And now let's say this quarterback, his read wasn't there. That I don't know what it was, the 9 route on the bottom. Now his read isn't there. He needs to pull the ball down. And guess what? He's going right into a sack. So yeah, he did get rid of the ball, but this right here, this hop and crossing the feet, that is not good. So he needs to fix that on that play. So overall, that play wasn't really a good play for him. So power, but needs control. Okay, so like I said, left tackle. All right, let's see. So again, like that drop step. So the thing with this is where I'm saying, like, okay, in the contact window, if you're gonna cross your feet and take big steps, it's usually gonna be on square, on shuffle pull, square pull, whatever you want to call it. I call it a shuffle pull. On a skip pull, you can cross your feet because you're crossing your feet and you're taking big steps. You're not expecting contact and you have to get somewhere quickly. That's different than when a guy is tighter to you. The stand-up edge right here where he's in the contact window, you cannot be taking big steps. You cannot be crossing your feet. So it depends on, there's different times to take big steps. Here, this is not the time. You see how big that step from that right foot is? That's too big. And if the edge defender was better, comes up the arc or upfield with a stab to the outside and then crosses his face with a cross chop, whatever it may be, I would like that much better. instead of the hop that he does here, and he kind of like throws that like containment punch, but that containment punch just turns into him just using that upper body power. Look, there's really not a lot behind that. Like his hips aren't really behind his punch, but this is just pure, just freakish man strength where he's just using just all of his, he's really just taking him and just completely throwing him with his upper body and a little bit of hips right here. But it's not really, he's not really getting obviously his full body into this punch. And to be able to move a guy who's 300, no, not 300. I didn't mean to say that. Let's just say 230. To be able to move him with one arm like that and just toss him to the outside is great, obviously. And even after, I'd like to see him again coming with more control, coming with a better base, and not just try to get to the guy quick to lay a shot on him. Coming with better control right there. You can see him coming in a little bit out of control. So yeah, it looks good. You know, this is the plays I see on Twitter of people, oh, well, you just tossed this guy to the outside. Look how impressive this is. The result was good. The process wasn't good. I'm more about the process than the result. There's many I could bring up the process versus the results a billion times in film review. It's all about the process to me, not the results. And I've heard people say the opposite. I couldn't disagree more. If Sam Darnold throws an interception, but it's a fantastic throw where he's scrambling, breaks 4 tackles, and then he throws it right into his receiver's breadbasket, but the receiver doesn't look the ball and it gets tipped up in an interception. Okay, the result's an interception. Is it a bad play by Darnold, or there was a process good before that result? So the process, I would argue for hours about the process versus result. I brought up 1,000 examples of that. So good result, not a great process for me. He's relying a little bit too much on his strength right there. And then I'd like to see him with better control, getting to the outside. But like I said, if this guy can get coached up, man, it's gonna be scary. So again, on obviously the left tackle needs control. Okay, so yeah, this is the same thing. They're running like that fake orbit motion for like an end around, and they're just running called a mid zone, outside zone. And Becton he's releasing right to the second level. Especially he's most likely he's going to block this guy and try to get outside leverage on this defensive end. But when the defensive end knifes inside, which good awareness by him to not chase that block. So I like that part of it, where he's not going to chase that block because he knows his left guard is coming with him. And he goes to the second level. This is where I like to see him better base and climb up. You know the running back's angle. You know he's going to be going to the outside. You're a massive dude with a massive wingspan. Shuffle. Come. No, I don't know what I was going to say there. I want to see him shuffle, have a better base right here, work up. Get square to him, and he's not going to cross your face. Get far enough upfield where he's not going to be able to come over the top of you, and you have some room to not take the perfect angle because of how massive you are. So he needs to stay more square here. He needs to come to the second level with better control. So you'd say, coming to the second level out of control, and the guy sheds him because he's coming, top heavy and not in control. And listen, the running back gets tackled, 2 yards in the backfield, 3 yards in the backfield, whatever it may be. But if he wasn't, and he was running up to this gap, guess what? Now the linebacker's here, and he wasn't able to block anybody on this play. So you have a play where I like the beginning of the process, but overall he doesn't block one player. Maybe for a quarter of a second he holds a guy up, but that's not a good play from Becton. So that's the things I'm talking about, like out of control, So let me share the screen. Another fat tire. I had to finish the 6-pack today. Been drinking them pretty slow, but having a beer on a podcast is not a bad thing. It's 2 times in 3 shows. The first 3 times I've ever done it in like 150 podcasts. So at least the ones you could see me. So maybe I'm just letting loose, going off the rails. All right. So let's see here. Power lead read. So they like to do this. I think they do this like veer read a lot with the whole offensive line flows the opposite way of the way they're reading, like the veer read. I call that a veer read when it's to the backside of the offensive line, and it's usually the edge. I'll call it a veer. Even though it's, they're not really, it doesn't look like they're really reading the edge. Call it like a boss read, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. We're talking about Becton here. So Becton, again, with this punch, see, when you come off the line of scrimmage, 2 big of steps for me right here. It's not bad, and I'm being a little bit picky, but I think that's what you guys are here for. a little bit more control with his feet. I don't like how his feet are off the ground right here. You see them off the ground together. If a guy gets into your chest like that in the NFL, when your feet are not making contact with the ground, good luck. Even if you're 370 pounds, you're going to get blown back. So I would see a little bit more control to his punch. And again, he's able to just torque him outside. So in the NFL, he has some room to do this, where he's not going to get his full power from his feet to his trunk to his core to his upper body, up through his upper body. He's going to have some flexibility to be able to do that, but it's not going to work for everybody. So I'll seem to see a little bit more square here. You can see his hips are kind of pointed outside, and the guy is in front of him. So I'd like to see a little bit more square, a little bit less of the hop. Again, it's being a little bit nitpicky, but it's what I'm here for. It looks like he gets his left arm onto the shoulder, and his right arm is most likely under the armpit. So I'm gonna say I like that hand placement. Let me see. It's hard to see on this angle. Maybe it's over top. Actually, it looks like it's on the shoulder pad, so it's over top of that arm. It looks like, based on how it comes off of his arm. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's on the shoulder pad, and just again, ridiculous circular force power, upper body power, and then runs to finish the block. So good play by him there. Could clean up a little bit, but overall it's a good play. Becton power again. A lot of these plays are pretty similar. I don't know if this is the same thing. Okay, so this one looks a little bit better based on, let me see the first time. So here, when he's moving out to that edge, they're running like an inside zone, mid zone. I'll call it more of an inside zone. And he has a little bit more flexibility since he's going out to that far edge, like that defensive back. He has more room to take bigger steps. Like there's different situations. So another like drop step right here, and he opens it a little bit. Again, a tiny bit too big for me, but it's okay. I like how his hands stay tight right here. So good job keeping his elbows nice and tight to come and block him. Which does generate more power, but you also don't want to do that too much on the second level, because the more narrow your hands are, the less surface body or area you cover, the easier to get chopped down, the more lateral movements you allow. So again, there's different things for every different situation. So he gets his hands on the guy, and you just go and literally he lifts him off the ground right here. You see him get out into the looks like the rib cage, the armpits, and you're gonna see him drive off of the instep of the. Sorry about that. You're going to see him drive off of the left instep right there and just lifts him in the air onto his ass. And then he likes to punish guys a little bit, especially when he sees them on the ground. Like he throws him on the ground. He hesitates like, oh, no, oh shit, I threw him on the ground. And he's like, oh, well, guess what? Now I'm going to absolutely just plow into you. So I like that mindset of him. He definitely likes to finish his blocks. And apparently it seems like a nice guy from everything I've heard. But he has that aggressive mindset on the field. And that makes guys think twice, I'm telling you. It gets into your head on the football field. You just got tossed around like a rag doll. It affects you a little bit, that's for sure. It makes you pay. It can even make you make you more timid, or it can make you pissed off. There's players who get pissed off and they get tossed around, and now they're playing with their hair on fire and not really reading what they're supposed to be reading their keys, doing the proper techniques. They're trying to light guys up, which can benefit your team. So, in multiple ways. So, comes off of the ball here again, like another drop step right there to one, not cover ground, to open his hips. There's drop step. I call it the same thing, drop step, when you're just dropping back and your toes are staying in the same direction. When you're dropping back, when you're opening up your hips, I'm gonna call that a drop step. You can call it like a altered zone step, whatever. I'm not gonna get too crazy about that, but I'm gonna call it a drop step. Again, he's a little bit high right here. I don't necessarily he and not just because of his body weight, but because of how tall he is. But in terms of his base, you see how thin his base is right there. His heels are clicking, and they're in the air. That's not good technique. I know that the finish is good, but having no contact with the ground and your base being that shallow in a contact window is not good. I would like to see him more just step laterally with this foot, and then maybe a step up field with the right foot and have a better base and work up to him with your length. So I don't love him jumping outside right here, with no contact to the ground and a really not thin base, narrow base, I should say. But overall, he is able to get his right hand into, looks like the shoulder pad again, and just completely torque this guy out. So I'm fine with the hand placement, and the upper body strength is really, really good. But if he was to have more into his base right there, he would throw the guy out into the sideline. So if he had more into this, where you could see he's standing pretty straight up, narrow base, he's standing pretty much straight up with a narrow base, which is double whammy of bad. But he's able to just throw that guy outside just because of pure power. Again, well, this works versus a Notre Dame, defensive end outside linebacker. Will it work against Chandler Jones when we play the Cardinals? I don't think so. So like you have to. It's about what they are versus projecting them to the NFL and what they have to work on. So, oh, okay. I didn't even know I had the second view of this. So you see his feet crossing in the context. So like that's what I'm talking about. On this angle, you can't really see his feet crossing too much. Like it looks like they might click and then come over. But this is how much difference the back view makes. It's so much different. Feet crossed in the contact window, and he's not really getting his full hips into that. I would see him more drive off the right foot instep and through him, but still, again, it's a good result. Like I said, it's not a bad play. I'm being a little bit nitpicky, but it's what you kind of have to do when you're watching this stuff. So torque length, again, a lot of these plays are similar. I don't really have to spend a lot of time on what happens here. It's a lot of run plays. Opens up. This one he's getting a little bit more of his base into. You see how he's a little bit lower here. You can see how he sinks, and he's driving off the right instep. It's a little bit upper body E. Does that make sense? Probably not. So I would say a little bit more square here, but he does sink, and he really is driving off of that back foot. So this isn't really that bad. It could get cleaned up a little bit, but I'm not going to nitpick this one. So he's able to use that length. You see that length right there. Get his left arm into the shoulder. It's so hard with this view to tell where their hands are. He gets his hands in fine enough position to torque him outside, and then is able to. This is the part of the play I probably like the most now that I'm watching it is after. So he torques him outside. I like how he uses his length, and he's keeping his right arm. It's really hard to say. I watched like a billion times. He's keeping his right arm inside of that armpit, and it's continuing to drive him. You see that right there? Now you can see his like wristband that he wears right there. So after he torques him, he doesn't just torque him outside and see you later. He keeps his hand inside the armpit and continues to drive him to define that gap. So I like that part of the play the most right there, fighting to maintain the contact after he torques him out. That's a good job by Becton on that block. I like that block. Movement. All right, so we're gonna see some good movement skills for a guy who's, like I said, 6'7", 370 pounds. Let's just call him 370 even. Okay, so sorry. All right. So they're running like this split belly zone, and Becton, because he doesn't have to worry about this D end right here, the outside linebacker, edge, again, whatever you want to call him. He doesn't have to worry about him because they're using this pistol set, this fullback, running back, number 2, number 3, whatever you want to call him. Again, depends on your terminology. He's a split flow player, that sifter, if you want to call him a sifter. Works back to block the DN, so Becton doesn't have to worry about him. So he's blocking down to the combo block with the left guard. Creates movement. For me, it looks like he's attacking high. Becton's full power into a guy's hips. He's going to move him more than he does. So yeah, he does move him, but I like to see him attack the hips right there. He keeps his eyes into the second level, and once this linebacker who presses the line of scrimmage pretty quickly. Let's see him maintain some more depth there. I'm not evaluating him. He presses the line of scrimmage. Becton keeps his eyes on him. As soon as the linebacker starts to scrape over top, he shuffles laterally, gets his hands into him, and takes him out of the play. So nothing crazy here. I've better plays of athleticism. That's pretty good athleticism and a good play for a guy his size. So nice play by him there. Technique meh, but power and length. All right. Looks pretty similar, right? All right. Drop step, feet cross again. It looks like they cross or get really close to crossing. Narrow base. He does get so I like his hand placement. His hand placement is definitely pretty solid. At least it seems his hands might actually in turn now that I think about it, his hands do seem to land a little bit too wide too often. With a guy like him with his natural power, he has the ability to do that a little bit. Like guys who use the hug technique and pass pro, basically hugging to contain them. The problem with the hug technique in pass sets is you're giving up your chest. If you're strong enough with your core and with your anchor to use that could be an elite technique, but you have to be really, really strong. So he has some flexibility to shoot wide, but if he was to use his length more and shoot from his chest right into guys, that would make a difference of an extra inch or two, which is a lot in football. So he does shoot a little bit wide. Even here, it seems like he shoots to the shoulders a little bit. Yeah, shoulders and the bicep. So hands are a little bit wide. And a little bit high when they're that high, but it's going to be a little more okay with him. But like I said, with his size and his strength, he's going to have some room to be less perfect technically and still be a really good player. If he's okay technically, he'll be a pro ball player. That's my opinion. If he is a above average to good technically, he's going to be an all pro. That's how I feel about him, but I don't feel he's good technically yet. So even though you see the results that look great, we'll see. So a little bit too big of a hop outside right there again. So he's hopping. There's no contact with the ground right here. You always want to have contact with at least 1 foot. So, and he's a little bit upright. So it's not really necessarily the best angle to come into a block to. His legs are pretty straight. Doesn't really have an arch in the back, and his back is just straight up and down for the most part. He's able to get his hands on him and again torque the guy out because he has, 120 pounds on this guy easily, 110 pounds easily on this guy, and he sticks with the block and blocks him out. So good result, not the best block. All right, but. Again, now with this, and this is from Play Like a Jet, Scott Mason, one of my friends. He's saying that he takes very well to coaching from the Louisville staff have said that. So he's a guy who likes to get coached up and likes to get better. So he doesn't seem like one of those guys who's going to say, screw coaching. I'm big, I'm huge. Like, who cares? Like, there are guys like that, even though it kind of seems crazy, but there are. So the good thing is that the Jets have a good offensive line coach. Say what you want about the Jets offensive line last year. I'm not letting Frank Pollock's 15, 20 years of a great reputation get diminished by one bad season with the Jets. And there's so many factors into that. Were the guys taking well to coaching? Did they apply the techniques he was telling them? Did he have enough time? Were they stuck in their bad habits? There's so many different things with coaching that say, oh, well, Jets offensive line wasn't good. The offensive line coach is garbage. That's not what happened. So left tackle right here against the 5 techs, 6I, whatever you want to call them. And see the feet crossing again. When he's coming into contact, his feet are crossing. So I peg that as a negative right there. Don't want to see that. Gain some width with that first step instead of dropping it back. If you want to get outside quickly, then shuffle immediately off of that left foot. Don't drop step and then cross. Again, here there's basically no power from his base. Maybe a little bit, but there's really not a lot of power in your. Try to cross your feet like this and then push something and see how much you could push. You could still probably push a car like everybody else. All these other NFL draft prospects are on YouTube, but story for different. I saw another one the other day. I was laughing. I was like, people have to be joking around with me at this point. I would bet, and I'm being legitimate. I'm going to bet minus, I know the one guy from Twitter who Scott told me about. I know he watches with his son. I think he still watches with his son. I love that. Appreciate you guys. I think it's Ferrero or whatever on Twitter. So you guys are still watching. Shout out to you guys and your son. So other than the kid, I'm going to say anybody over the age of 20, I'm going to say 80% of my listeners over 20, maybe even 18, if they go outside on a flat surface, put their car in neutral, if you can't push it, I'm sorry, you're a little soft. I'm sorry. It's not very hard to push a car neutral. It's really not. As soon as you get that initial nudge, it goes. It rolls. A car is meant to roll. So it's crazy. Whatever. So left tackle again, feeder crossing. He's a little, so you see how he's more arch in his back right here. So I like the more arch in the back. I do not like the base. Gets his hands into the guy, extends. So okay, so the movement is good here. I don't like the technique, but look how fast he's moving for a guy his size. For a guy who's 370 pounds, he's not supposed to be able to get outside that quickly. Even though I like to see a better technique, he works his hands as a pivot point. Works to cover the play side gap with his hips, stays in front, and then once he has them, you could see him, work off of the insteps right here, and shut the guy down, and then use like almost like the outside pillar right there, or I guess actually the inside pillar right there. So good job by Becton on a decent amount of it and a decent amount of it bad. Like I said, I don't want to see the feet crossing, especially in the contact window. And the guy came in contact with him in that contact window with his feet crossing, but he's not strong enough. So another pistol set, a lot of pistol and things like that, a lot of read option stuff in this offense. So like this veer speed option with an arc blocker. So he's the arc blocker. Actually, it's not split. The fake handoff. You have the arc blocker. Yeah, you have the veer read, arc blocker, speed option. It's all going into that, whatever they call that. You have Becton. So this is better. I like his feet better here. He's working against the edge, and you see how that foot. It's a little bit of a drop to be honest. I'd like to see that maybe gain more ground, but it's okay. It's opening his hips up to him. It's allowing him to stay square. So I don't hate that drop step right there. And he shuffles. You see that shuffle? A lot better than crossing your feet right there. So I like his technique a lot better than here. And he's loading up a little bit, gets his hands inside, and the guy literally gets lifted off his feet. He's powerful as a bull. He really freaking is. So good play right there by Becton. Another play looks pretty similar. It's going to be pretty similar. I'm assuming power, but out of control. Okay, yeah. Oh, didn't mean to rerun that. Outside linebacker, 7 tech, 9 tech, wide 5, stand up, whatever. Like I said, I call them certain things. I don't want people to get jammed up on stupid terminology. I use imaginary people, so I call them like a stand up 7, whatever. So another like drop step. And I'm okay with this process. It looks like his feet cross again. So I don't want the feet crossing. He has more room to do it. Especially this guy is tiny compared to him. I don't know how big he is. I'm going with the over under at 225. So he has a lot of room for bad technique with guys who are 140 pounds better or smaller than him without good technique. Guys in the NFL, you might see him cross his feet like this and either make sure to contact him quick into the chest or let him, give him that fake stab, let him cross his feet and then knife right inside. Guys are going to do that. Guys film study better in NFL than they do in college. So he doesn't generate a ton of force with that. He does, but he's out of control. You see how he's out of control? He putting all of his body top heavy, trying to throw all of his power into there. Just block the guy. You don't need to toss guys every play. So he tries to toss him. Guess what? The guy only gets thrown back a yard, even though he does. He gets lifted up only a yard. If the running back was getting pressured here, had to cut out. Guess what? He just got shed for a tackle. Luckily, the hole was there. A big hole was there for the running back, but he's way too top heavy trying to throw a guy instead of just blocking him. So not a good play by Becton. That's a definitely a negative play for him, for me personally. So power. Alrighty. Like drop step, 5 tech, the end, opens up his hips, more square. Okay, better. His feet don't maybe they cross close to cross, which I don't love the feet. They're not as bad as they've been, and he stays more square. You see how his hips are square to the guy? So he's more square. Don't love the feet crossing, but he's lower in his base, more of an arch in his back, driving off of this instep from the right foot, gets his hands onto, again, it looks like the shoulder pads, and just torques them outside. Circular force, Driving off the instep, upper body, a lot of power right there, and then stays with the block. Better. All right. Oh, I didn't share the screen yet. Okay. Good pass set. I think I remember putting this down, but after I watched it again a couple of times, I didn't think it's the best pass set. Okay. There's not a lot of vertical sets, so I think I'm just putting this on there because I don't see a lot of vertical sets from him, to be honest. So it doesn't cover a lot of ground with that first step. You don't need to cover a lot of ground. They're tighter. Unless he has a leap burst, he's going to bend it. You don't have to cover a lot of ground with that first step. That's okay for me. Square, nice arch in his back, good base. If I'm being nitpicky, this step's a little bit too big for me. Too much ground right there. I know the running back is in the block, but he's blocking a blitzing safety linebacker, whatever you want to call him. So a little bit nitpicky. That's a little bit too big. And then with the punch, so again, I'm being a little bit nitpicky, but he is stopping his feet to punch, and he's shooting narrow and leaning pretty hard into it. Doesn't have the best base. It's not terrible. This foot's really far back. That's a little bit too far outside of his frame to be able to allow like lateral mobility, but it's not the worst. But I don't like stopping your feet and punching necessarily, even though it's not that big. He's stopping in the contact window, so it's really not that bad. Again, a little bit nitpicky. Hands are a little bit narrow for me. It's that hand. If he was a cross chop, whatever that, both of his hands are defeated. Now his hips are locked. So that's an okay technique. But still, he's able to use his length. The base is not bad when he goes to punch. It's really not that bad, actually. It's a little bit wide for me, but it's okay. Gets into the guy and is able to shut down the rush. So if I had to grade that, that's a plus play for me. 16 out of 22. Decent technique. Okay. All right. Again, we're seeing like driving or kicking out a lot of edge players. So see the feet again. They're not as bad. It's not as dramatic. It's not really a crossover, but they are like pretty much clicking. But lower in his stance, arch in his back. Looks like his left hand. I'm gonna say his left hand lands into the pectoral. Right hand is, I don't know where it is. Looks like based on how the guy reacts, it's probably like under his armpit. So good hand placement by him. Don't necessarily love the feet crossing, but it's okay. Here gets his hands inside, torques him outside, runs with him, stays with the block. Good job by Becton there. All right. Allows penetration. Okay, so I think he crosses his feet or somewhere here, and one of these guys shoots inside. Yep. Okay. Again, drop step, cross your feet. And again, when you're taking too big of steps and crossing your feet like that, guess what it doesn't allow you to do? It doesn't allow you to stop, start, move laterally quickly. Just like when you have too big of a base. If your base is too wide, you can't move laterally off of really big base. Go almost into a split, which is being dramatic, and then try to jump to your side. You're not going to cover any ground. So there's a happy medium in terms of good base or too wide of a base or too narrow of a base, and you really never want to cross your feet unless you're not in a contact window or trying to get really far outside, or if you're doing like a shuffle pull, square pull, skip pull. That's really it. So the feet are crossing, too big of steps. He opens his hips to the outside. Again, want to see him shuffle, stay more square to this linebacker. The linebacker is able to give him a little like shimmy, stab outside, and he shoots right past them. Again, he could have even done a better job, the outside linebacker, in terms of defeating that arm. If he defeated that arm, he was more aggressive with his hands and ready with his hands, he gets in there even quicker. So too big of steps outside, and it comes to bite him in the ass right here. And the running back stiff arms is great. So the result is okay, a 3-yard gain by the running back, but the due to the process, it could have been or it should have been a 4-yard tackle for loss because of Becton. So I like how Becton after, gets square and at least gets his hands on that guy and trucks that guy over, but he still let the contact on the running back, 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So 2 biggest steps, to feet crossing over, completely screws him right there. If he was shuffling, he would have been able to probably get inside, get his hands on him, take advantage of that length and wingspan, but he wasn't able to because of his footwork right there. So he needs a good amount of work with his footwork. Becton down the second level. I said it before, I don't like, and I could have brought up a couple more plays. I don't like Louisville, their run coordinator. Like it seems like the guys don't really help each other out a lot, because in the NFL, if this guy's a 3 technique, he is 10% responsible for that technique inside of him, even if it is a mid zone. Especially if it's a mid zone, like if it's a wide zone, outside zone, okay, it's a little bit less responsibility. But you'd see, the left tackle right here, Becton, usually throw his hand, like hand check him, cross shove him, whatever it may be. But to just leave 55 right there to reach block him, I don't really think it's the best. And the fullback, he wham blocks, but that's not the purpose of this. If he was going to wham block, they would let this guy go. 75 would pull right to the backside linebacker. So this play was not executed well by really anybody. Regardless, Becton he pulls right to the second level. That's how he's coached, most likely. If he was coached to help this guy out with his length, stay square, throw a hand out, and get extension into him to pop him backwards to allow the left guard to reach him easier, to get in front of him easier, then great, or even help him block him, whatever. But Becton goes right to the second level. You're going to see some good movement from him the second level right here. Gets his hands on the DB, and the DB goes flying. So he has good movement. Again, for 370 pounds, he moves really, really well. So a good play by him. Play 19 of 22. All right. Well, this play looked a little bit laggy, so watch the feet there again. Drop step, a little bit of a cross. It's like when I'm coaching, if I was coaching, little stuff like this, I don't like be more ready for something. You're not ready for anything to happen right here. It's not a good stance. You're way too upright. Do something. So Becton comes to the outside. Guy tries to get into his chest. It doesn't really work anyway. And Becton just punches him and throws him. He throws him a good 2-3 yards right here. Becton, again, good movement skills. That's positive. Blocks him out of the play, turns around, see if there's anything else he can block, and blocks number 90. So I'll play that in full speed. This is like movement skills. I like the movement skills from him right here. Stay with the block, flip around, get a hand on 90. Second play, I don't know. I guess it was literally 2 plays in a row. That's why I did it. Okay. If you see me doing 2 plays in a row with it, it's literally because it's 2 plays in a row, not just because I'm putting 2 plays together. So feet crossing again, because they're leading. I mean, they're running like this lead zone, power zone. Some people call it a power zone and I call it a power zone out, honestly, when this fullback is blocking the edge, and they're bypassing that edge to work the second level. I call that a power zone. So this is a power zone to me. Bypasses the edge. He's crossing his feet. Again, if you're not in that contact when you're not expecting it and you're trying to get out quickly, give you a little bit more leniency so he gets out quickly to bypass that D end. Gets his hands on the linebacker, safety, whatever. He looks like probably a linebacker for Kentucky. Gets his hands on, extends him, and throws him back. Stays and tries to stay with the block, but it's good enough. He throws him outside by 2-3 yards. So good movement right there by Becton. Toss DB. This is him in the second level again. Something was not right on this play, because there's nobody blocking that D end. Now, if you're gonna not account for this guy and you're expecting, the overhang, the DB, whatever you want to call him over there, not accounting for him, okay, you should expect your running back to beat one on a play. That's pretty much what coaches coach for. Beat that one guy, and it's a good play. So they completely bypass that edge play right there. Does Becton expect the left guard to get outside and pick him up? I don't know. Does the left guard expect Becton? I don't know. He gets completely, left alone, and he makes tackle, or does he make a tackle? Looks like the running back kind of like jump cuts him right here. Good job of the running back at least beating him, but the play gets completely blown up. Becton gets to the second level. Again, you see him lift the DB off of his feet right here. So good movement skills to get to the second level, blown up. I don't love the run game coordinator, the offensive line coach, whatever it may be for that team, but it was a miscommunication, whatever it may be. I don't know what's happening on in their room right there, so I'm not going to place the blame on anybody right there. But first thing, you go back to the coach and say, what the hell is this? What are they doing? Unless somebody just completely screwed it up, but if he's not coaching enough, hammering in enough, it kind of bad. So again, similar play that we saw before. So the running back has to. So they're running this another like inside split zone, and Becton, look at his feet again, drop step, crosses, and again crosses his feet or almost crosses his feet. Look how big those steps are. What does the defensive end do? Crosses his face, swipes that inside arm, and the running back completely has to change his angle to get around him. So if the running back ran into him, tackle for loss, whatever it may be, you don't want to see this. Whatever the end result is, him running into the guy, tackling for loss, having to change his angle, it screws up the timing of the run. So now he has to go outside, and now there's other guys waiting for him. He gets good job by the running back, bouncing it for 4 yards, but bad play by Becton. You can't cross your feet like that and hop that big when there's a guy that close to you. So come off of the ball, shuffle your feet, and use your length. He has so much room with how big he is. And if this is happening, like I said, if this is happening against guys who's a bad technique in college, wait until the NFL. Those plays that I'm showing before, we're using a lot of just his upper body, and he's crossing things like that. It's going to get blown up some. So way too big of steps right there. Feet crossing. Oh shit! Mode tries to reach out. And good job, staying in and pushing the guy. Even that could be it's probably a block in the back. To be completely honest, I didn't call it. I don't think. You can't see his numbers. I would call that a block in the back. So not a good play by Becton. Last play, we said 22 plays is relatively short. They do end up drafting Becton, which I think is, if I had to say who's the most likely, it's Becton or Thomas are the two tackles likely to fall to them, the two lower guys. Once I pop in some Wirfs film and a couple bit in on Monday, I'm much higher on him. There's a lot of plays that are really positive for him, even though there's some work he needs to do, obviously. And I'll tell you where he is. But I said these guys are 3 and 4, so you know that Wirfs must be higher if you care. So jet motion. Again, like who is blocking who on this play? Like, what are they trying? I'm not even going to go through this play. I remember going through this play a couple times. The one tech on the play side or backside, whatever you want to call it, gets completely bypassed. The right tackle doesn't stay in to the tight end for the tight end to block to be able to pick up the 3 tech. The 3 tech shoots, the 1 tech shoots. You have the edge defender who's shooting. You have Becton who is taking 2. The technique is bad. It's not good right here. Drop step and look where his hips are. His hips and his upper body are completely disconnected right here, where his hips are going this way and his upper body trying to fight this way. So if you're on the backside of this play and this guy's tighter to you, come off of the ball, bring this foot up, and just root your feet down. Maybe even shuffle inside. But they swear. But him right here, just coming, just having that drop step and just trying to reach him with no power behind his shot. That is not good technique at all by Becton. That is not. It's not good right there. Reaches for the block, bad technique. Hips are going completely opposite way. Momentum's going the opposite way. The guy is able to again, swipe into an arm over and gets right on the running back and makes a tackle for a loss. So piss poor blocking by the offensive line, whatever it may be. That's not good. Not a good play by Becton. So you see what I'm saying when I say, like, okay, yeah, he's a physical freak, but there's a lot of things he has to work on. even on the good plays, there's a lot he needs to work on. There's only, out of 22 plays, there's only probably 2 or 3 plays that were like plus technically, So, like I said, OT4 for me, OT3 for the Jets. If they draft them, I'll still be happy. But and I know that line is more important than receiver, and that's why I would take a Becton over a Judy. But if they were to get a Jason Peters or a Trent Williams, that's in their back pocket, and they can trade for one of those guys if they don't get a tackle. Let's say you had Jason Peters or Trent Williams right now. If it's Becton versus Judy or Thomas versus Judy, I'm taking Judy. That's just how I feel, because offensive line is important, and I think if you added Trent Williams to this line or Jason Peters, it could be like an average-ish line. And in a perfect world, it is a wills or a worfs, but Judy is really, really high on my board. He's my number one receiver. We talked with Marcus Coleman, the other day, a personal friend of mine, former NFL DB. His number one receiver far and away is Judy as well. So if you're talking about like Judy versus, Thomas, I would rather take Judy. Like, I like Judy a lot more, but if they don't address tackle into the draft and it's Judy versus Thomas or Judy versus Becton, I'm taking Thomas or Becton. You have to protect Sam Darnold. And this year, maybe their offensive line took a slight step forward, but at the same time, how much of a step forward is it? Because if I had to bet on who is better next season, Beachum or Fant, even though Fant has a higher ceiling, and like I said, I'll show the review, he took steps in the right direction for sure. If I had to bet my life right now on one game of who's going to play better, it's Beachum. So you downgraded left tackle. Right tackle, you hope you upgraded because you have Odogo who's there, and he should take a step in the right direction. Okay, so maybe a slight upgrade. Right guard, you have a competition between, Winters and Van Roden. So a step in the right direction because, you have more health there. So now you have Van Roden, who, even if he doesn't start, that is $3.5 million. You have Winters, who's healthy, who's below average, but still he's like okay. You have Lewis, who is not a good starter, below average starter, and then you have McGovern, who's above average starter. So you only, how much did the line take a step in the right direction? A little bit, but it's not like we're an average line yet. The Jets are still not a good offensive line. Let's say last year, if they were 32nd in the league, maybe right now they're 23rd, 24th, so it's still not good. So you need to draft a tackle there. Tackle's more important for a quarterback than a receiver is. You can make do with okay receivers, Crowder, Perryman. Okay, that's like below average group, but they can still get the job done, a little bit. As if but I rather draft those 2 receivers in rounds 2 and 3 with those 3 picks they have between those 2 rounds, then draft a receiver and then bank on a guy in the second round starting a tackle. So in the perfect world, a wills or a worfs falls, and then you take them, and then round 2 you get a Van Jefferson, and round 3 you get whoever, name who you like. There's so many receivers this year. So that's the perfect world. What will happen? And then maybe with that other pick in those top 3 rounds, you either get an interior offensive lineman, a corner, or an outside linebacker. I don't think there's a lot of good outside linebackers. So I'm hoping for offensive tackle round 1, honestly, probably like receiver, and then either interior offensive line or corner. That's what I'm hoping for, the top 4 guys. But like I said, Becton, I could see him in 3 years being an all-pro. So do you trust your offensive line coach? Which I do trust Pollock. So I'm not super worried about him. It's not like we have a bad offensive line coach. So I'll let him on the Jets. But like I said, OT4, OT3 for the Jets. I appreciate everybody for listening. Drop those reviews. Share it with your friends. You have to go on the podcast app to review it. I appreciate the YouTube comments. But even if you watch on YouTube, just go to your podcast app if you have an iPhone and just throw a 5-star. If you can throw a 5-star in a sentence about why you like the show or what we can improve on even, or what I can improve on, because to me it's solo. I would appreciate that. Like I said, it helps us get out to more people. I'll be back talking to you guys on Monday. The show is coming out Saturday night. So less than 48 hours, I'll be dropping a review on Tristan Wirfs. And then most likely on Wednesday, I'll be dropping another show on, Jedrick Wills, my favorite tackle. I'll just say that now, my favorite tackle. So then after that, it's going to be the 3 receivers and then Chase on. So appreciate everybody for listening. Ton of content coming your way to keep you busy during quarantine. I know you're going to keep seeing your podcast app or your YouTube and just keep seeing, notifications from this channel. But that's kind of the time we're in right now. We got March and April is the busiest time of the year for anybody who evaluates film for both free agency and for the draft, especially when you're doing both. A lot of guys just do one. You do both. It's a lot. So appreciate you guys listening, watching, whatever, and I will see you in 2 days.